Hi, and welcome back to part 3 of our series on emotionally intelligent leadership. Hopefully you've had a chance to watch the movie. I think most people will probably have watched the whole movie now. Once you see the first clip, you really want to watch the whole movie. So if you watch the whole movie, well done. That's exactly what I do at this point. But we'll now come back and we're going to talk a little bit about the clip that we sent you in the link, which was designed to really bring this idea of emotional intelligent leadership to life, to see it embodied, to give us an example of somebody displaying leadership, and to challenge, is that what emotional intelligence really is or not? One of the examples of leadership that some people pick up and other people don't is this guy, the guy that on the screen now. This guy, the character he's playing is Marcus Aurelius. So he was the Caesar at the time, effectively the CEO of the Roman Empire. And it's interesting to think about what we see him do in the clip. Now remember, this is a big battle. They'd been at this war for 19 years. This was crucial to the future strategy of the Roman Empire. So it was a really important battle. And we find this guy sitting in a muddy field in Germany watching the battle from on top of a hill. Not back in Rome in his office, surrounded by all of his people, but in a muddy field in Germany. And not doing a whole lot, does he? I mean, he doesn't look like he could hold a sword. He doesn't look like he could run very far. He's not going to fight anybody. So what is he doing? Exposing himself to danger in a muddy field in Germany in 170 AD. And the point is that he's lending his presence, because that's what he can lend. He can be there for people. So imagine you're going into this big battle and you're standing there and you're a Roman legionnaire and you've got your shield and you've got your sword and you're about to go into battle, and you look up to your right, and who do you see? The big boss. And he's there with his Versace bling on, so he's not going to be hard to miss. Pretty clear who he is and how important he is. And you look up and you think, the big boss is here. He wouldn't be here if we were going to lose. He thinks we're going to win, because if this goes badly, the Germans are going to find him. And well, look at him. He's not going to run away very fast, is he? So he's exposing himself to danger because he's expressing his confidence in the troops. So what I can give to my troops is confidence, belief. How I motivate them is by expressing my belief in them, my confidence that they're going to do well. You guys have a plan. You have it. This is going to go well. I am here for you, lending my presence. So I want you to imagine that one of your people has a big teleconference to do tomorrow with a difficult client. And you get on the phone to them and you go, tell you what, Mary, I know this conversation tomorrow with whoever, John, is going to be challenging. I'm going to join the call with you. I am going to support you. What does Mary do? Either breathe in or breathe out. If she breathes in, she's thinking, not only am I going to have to manage John, but now you're joining as well. Oh, for flip's sake. You make people anxious. You make people nervous. You're going to take over. You're going to knock me off my stride. It's really not helpful for me for you to be in the room as well when I'm trying to perform, because you don't bring the best out of me. You bring the worst out of me because you make me nervous. Or does she breathe out? Whew. Oh, thank God. This is going to be a tough meeting, but if you're coming to the meeting, that's great. You're not going to take over. You're still going to let me run the meeting. You're not going to undermine me. You're not going to make me look like a junior person. But if it gets difficult, I know you're going to step in. I know you're going to have my back. Actually, I'm feeling a couple of inches taller. I'm standing up straighter. I'm feeling a lot more confident. Yeah, okay, this is going to be good. This is going to be good. You make people feel better because of how you lead, because of the emotions that you are giving out, and because of how you're creating the right kind of sense of safety, security, confidence in the people around you. So whether you're in person, whether you're online, whether you're on the phone, what kind of environment, what kind of sense of safety? Amy Edmondson talks about psychological safety in the book that I wrote with my colleague Henry Evans. We talk about emotional safety. Same kind of idea. What kind of environment do you create? And do you make people blossom and grow and thrive because of how you lead? Or do you make them shrink? Do you make them defensive? Do you make them fall back on old defensive routines? That's about the emotions you create in other people because of your presence. And it doesn't have to be shouty. We saw in the video, the guy just sat there exposing himself to danger. That's all he had to do. How do you connect with people? How do you communicate that you're with them, that you're behind them, that you're engaged with them, that you're part of the problem? Obviously my favorite movie is Gladiator. well figured that out. My second favourite movie is the first Shrek movie. I know it's very highbrow stuff here at the IMI. So in the first Shrek movie, many of you will have seen it, there's a dragon and there's a princess in a keep, and the dragon is protecting the princess. And Lord Farquaad, remember him, the little guy, the baddie, he was sending people out to go and rescue the princess, because obviously he wasn't going to do it himself. So he stands up in front of all of these assembled mercenaries and says, "Some of you may not make it back alive, but I'm okay with that. Don't be that guy. That's the opposite of what we want." So that's the wrong kind of emotion. And what we see with Marcus Aurelius, that's the right kind of thing. How do we create emotional safety in others? By who we are being. Not what we're saying, not how we're acting, but by our intentional being. What kind of energy are you giving off? Whether you know it or not, in person, online, or over phone, you're giving off an energy signature. And we talked about energy in the very first section. That's weeping off you all the time. What is it? And are you intentional about what it is? And what's it creating in the people who are on the receiving end of it? There was another very interesting interaction with, this is a Legionnaire. So that would have been like the number 2 guy to the Russell Crowe character, to Maximus. And he's in charge of the artillery. And at some point, just before the whole thing kicks off, he says, "We need to move the cannons forward. They're out of range." And his boss, in front of everybody, says, "The range is good. Agreed?" And when he says agreed, that wasn't a question, was it? I mean, if we wrote it out, you might put a question mark after the word agreed, but he wasn't asking a question. He was telling him that they had agreed to something in front of everybody. So a couple of things were happening here, because he kind of slapped down his number 2 guy in front of everybody, kind of publicly dissed this guy. But how did he do it? And did he do it in a way that built the guy up, that let the guy accept the decision, or did he do it in a way that made the guy feel resentful and he's going to get you back for that, and I'm not going to make another suggestion now because you didn't like the first one. So there are times, particularly in ambiguous times, when you have to be absolutely clear with people. Ambiguity causes anxiety. People get stressed, people run ahead, they default to heuristic reasonings, they fall back on old patterns, what they know in difficult times. They don't look for new solutions because it's too hard, just too stressed. So sometimes you have to be very, very clear. And you need to remember that leadership is not a democratic act. If you're leading a group of people, it's not your job to get everybody to agree with you. It's your job to get everybody to understand the decision that you've taken. It's your job and your responsibility to take the decision. It's not a vote. It's not consensus. Consensus is too slow. And so it's. I was arguing the toss with a colleague of mine the other day. So if we got 20 people in a room and we were having a debate about nuclear physics, would we take the average answer, or would we just ask the nuclear physicist what the answer was? So we wouldn't be looking for consensus. We would be looking for a knowledgeable answer. Sometimes that's you. Sometimes you have to make a decision. You take everybody's point of view into account. You listen respectfully and carefully to what everybody has to say. And then comes the point when you have to take a decision. And at that point, you are not asking people to agree. You're asking people to understand. You do it respectfully. You do it in a way that builds their confidence, that honors and respects their humanity and their dignity, but that doesn't stop you taking a clear decision and making sure that everybody knows the conversation part of the meeting is over, the deciding part of the meeting is happening. In the deciding part of the meeting, I have a different energy than in the conversation part of the meeting. And that's what we see Maximus do there in that moment. We can't be having a debate about the range now. We're about to go into battle. We're about to kick off. Lots of people all lined up to do something, and you're having the wobbles. And I know that you're having the wobbles, and I expect you to have the wobbles because this is scary stuff. But I need you to remember, we have a plan. We've agreed to the plan. We are executing now. I need you to be confident and drive through this execution. And what he does, see the second comment on the slide there, he does that by challenging the idea, not the person. We need to be really hard on ideas because ideas need to be good. We need the very, very best ideas now more than ever. But we don't have to challenge people in order to do that. So really try to distance the person from the idea. So I can knock 7 shades of brick dust out of your idea, but it doesn't mean I don't like and respect you. I liked and respect you before this conversation. I'm going to like and respect you after it. I just don't like this idea you happen to have had. That sounds like generally your ideas are really creative, but this one not so much. I liked the way in the last meeting you really thought through the financial implications of the proposal. In this one, not so much. You haven't done the kind of analysis that I expected of you, or the market research that usually defines your work, that usually gives us great insight into our decision making, is really lacking in this one. You didn't quite give this the market research didn't get the same attention in this proposal as you usually do. And I'd like to see more of that really good market research that you generally bring. So can you go away? I'm liking a lot of what you're saying here, but I need more of the usual market research input. So go away and do that piece, and then please bring it back to me. So challenge the idea, be hard on the idea, but make sure that you're building the person at the same time. And that's what emotional and intelligent people can do. They can make sure that the hard part of the conversation is directed at the right bit. That's the idea. And then that's this building, this confidence, this engagement, this connection part, this human connection connects the people in the conversation so that they still feel valued. They still go out of that meeting going, do you know what, I'm going to give it another go. That wasn't my best work. In fairness, I didn't use my best judgment there. I can do better than this, and I'm bloody going to do better than this. So can you build a person while also challenging their idea? The other question that people ask me looking at this this image is, who's he on the phone to? Because clearly he's ringing his agent. See that? The next thing I want to just pick up on is the go signal. Remember the go signal? The flaming arrow? So there's a lovely quote, and I've stolen this from the British military. I've done some work with the military as part of my PhD in leadership. And they have this brilliant quote, which I've carried with me since, that what is simple is clear, and what's clear gets done. So you want stuff doing, you want people to do stuff. Well, you have to make it clear to them what it is. So the chances of somebody doing the right thing when it's not clear what you're asking them are pretty slow, pretty low, aren't they? So you got to make it really clear what I'm asking so that they have a chance to do the right thing. One of the ways to make things really clear is to make things simple, to really slim down. What am I really asking here? What are the most important things to get right here? Make that as simple, not simplistic, as simple as it can be, so that it can be clear, so that the people you're asking to act have a chance of doing the right thing. And as we say in the slide, simplicity is hard. Simplicity is difficult. Much easier to add your own bit of complexity, your own bit of spin, your own bit of nuance, and throw in a few more variables. Anybody can make a problem more complicated. In order to make a problem simple, you have to really understand what you're talking about. And that defines great leaders. They can really distill down when they're stressed, when they're anxious, when they're angry, or when they're excited. They can still disengage from those emotions because maybe they're not suiting you right now, and slim the conversation down, collapse the problem down to this is really what it's all about. This is the simple issue that we need to address now. I'm making that really clear to you so you have a chance to go and do some stuff. The world that you live in is not simple, totally get that. But your job is to make it as simple as it possibly can be so that the next person in the chain has a better chance of acting than they otherwise would have. And to quote the great man himself, and you can never fail when you're quoting Einstein, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. That's a real mark of people who really understand their stuff. They're able to explain it simply. We'll go back to our friend Maximus. Here's Maximus interacting with the troops before they go into battle, before a difficult challenge, a difficult project, a difficult engagement, something hard. He's asked people to do a hard thing, and now he's making himself available. He could easily be up on his horse, so obviously he gets on his horse later. But there's a point in the engagement when he wants to be visible and approachable. So how visible and approachable are you? Particularly if you're now having to work in an online environment. How are you making yourself visible and approachable and connected to people? What's the strategy? How easy is it for people to get a hold of you now and to feel some kind of human connection with you? We see Maximus walks the line, walks along. What's really interesting, and the fascinating part about this clip, is not the interaction he's having with the junior lieutenant guy. See, the guy has a little bit of ermine on the back of his collar, so we know he's a slightly more senior person. But if you look over his left shoulder, so to those two characters in the background, and we'll highlight those for you, look at what they're doing. They're watching the interaction between Maximus and their boss. Our guy knows the big guy. Our guy is connected to that big guy. We're going to be okay. We're being looked after here. There's a sense of connection right through the hierarchy. So how he's managed to do that is speaking at eye level. Get off your horse, get out of your office, get off the laptop, speak at eye level to people, however you manage that in the physical world or the online world. Make sure you're speaking at eye level, not from your position of authority. We're not talking about physical position, we're talking about positions of authority which distance you, but you're speaking at eye level, human to human, soldier to soldier. So we're speaking at eye level and recognizing that all of the interactions you're having with people blow out across and ripple out across the organization. There's a huge bullwhip effect. The one or two people you're connecting with, connect with their people, connect with their people, connect with their people. So you can have a huge effect on a big body of people by being very purposeful about how you connect at eye level with individuals. And that's exactly what we see him doing here, walking the line, making himself available. Doesn't do a big speech, no big dramatics, chucks the guy on the shoulder, we're in this together. What's your equivalent of giving a guy the chuck on the shoulder? How are you making that meaningful but subtle connection between people, between yourself and various people on the ground? In the final part of the clip, just before he went into battle, he does his little speech to the cavalry. Cavalry are the guys who are going to be riding down through a forest that he has set on fire in order to attack the Germans from the rear. And he's very honest about the risks. There's a bit of black humour here where he says, you know, if you find yourself riding alone in green fields with the sun on your back, do not be alarmed. You're in Elysium, so you're already dead. So there's a bit of a joke about it. Why do you think it's okay for Maximus to joke about the fact that some of these guys aren't coming back alive from the battle? That seems like a kind of appalling thing to say to a bunch of people before you send them into battle. What's really, really important here, well, partly it's the authenticity. I'm going to be honest with you. Authentic leadership is about being honest, not about being the same all the time. Be yourself. There's some core of you that's true, that stays stable. Your behavior may be slightly changed, but the core stays stable. That core honesty that with which he communicates, that's super important. Beyond that, because he's giving a very difficult message, there is another factor at play here which allows him to give a very difficult message to people about tough times ahead while remaining authentic and being credible. And that's, well, if we think about where is he going to be when the stuff hits the fan and when it's all going to be very difficult, where is Maximus going to be? He's going to be leading the cavalry. He's probably in as much, if not more, danger than anybody he's talking to. So what he's demonstrating here is the importance of making sure you're not asking people to run a risk from which you have insulated yourself. You're running a risk that you are exposed to. The challenges, the difficulties, the hard times ahead. You as a leader are clearly going to be subject to those issues and subject to a response to those issues in as much, if not more, than the people that you're asking to suffer through them with you. So what's crucially important, and we saw this in the response to the banking crisis, where some organizations, the senior executives in some organizations, insulated themselves from the issues, from the challenges, were still paying themselves bonuses, and you saw the impact that had on their staff. And then other organizations where everybody was in it together, where the management took even more of a pay cut, even more of a salary sacrifice than the people at the front line, because they wanted to make sure that we all understood. Everybody gave according to their ability to pay. Everybody suffered according to their ability to endure. So when you ask people to go through tough times, there's a great example here. Be authentic, be honest, and make sure that you are as subject to the environment. I think there are two reasons for that. One is the moral imperative. It's immoral to ask people to run a risk from which you've insulated yourself. So there is the moral imperative, which is probably the most important one. But even as a pragmatist, asking people to run a risk from which you have insulated yourself doesn't work. They won't do it. People aren't stupid. They won't do it. So even ignoring all of the morality and the immorality of protecting yourself when other people are in danger, it doesn't actually work because people won't do it. So there's a lovely quote from Emerson. Leadership is about who you are being. Your emotional life, your intellectual life, your spiritual life, your energetic life. It's who you are being in the moment is what lands on people as your leadership. Not your intention, not what was in your head, not what you read in a book. It's who you are being, because who you are being is what I'm interacting with. That's what's landing on me. That's who I'm following or who I'm choosing not to follow. Not what was in your head, not what you know, not what your position or your title or how big your car is or how many windows are in your office. I'm reacting to you based on who you are being in the moment as a human being, which is what we saw with Maximus walking the line with his troops. So, to recap what we went through watching the movie, and I accept I have now ruined the Gladiator movie for everybody. You never watch it the same way again. Leadership is about your intention. It's not about your intention. It's about your actions. But it's what you say, what you do, not what's in your head. What really, really matters is who you are being. That's the important thing. Who are you being? Are you conscious and purposeful and intentional about who you are being at any moment when you're interacting with people? It is possible to think through how and plan for who I need to be, how I need to show up, what kind of energy signature I need to have when I'm interacting with people. So you can get better at it. You don't just have to fall into this and just see what happens. You can think your way through, you can manage your way through, you can perceive emotion, use emotion, understand emotion, and manage emotion. You can come up with strategies that will allow you to be better and more intentional about how you show up and what kind of energy you give off and how you land on people. And how we do that is by understanding our emotional intelligence and building our emotional intelligence skills. We're going to talk a little bit more of that in the next section.